My mother once locked me out on the porch during a snowstorm, smiling while I trembled in my school clothes. When I begged her to let me back in, she sneered, "Fresh air builds character." I didn't argue. That was 6 years ago yesterday. Now the nurses tell me they found her curled beside a drafty window, whispering for another blanket. My mother only wanted one of her children to be resilient, me, not my fragile sister, Lila, who needed her beauty sleep in a heated princess suite. Not my baby brother, Milo, who'd catch pneumonia if the thermostat dipped below 72. Just me, the middle child, who had to be toughened up. On my 7th birthday, she tried to make me sleep on the hardwood to correct my posture. Luckily, my adopted brother Theo stepped in. He'd spent his childhood bouncing between foster homes, sleeping on floors. He wanted to break that cycle. But instead of backing off, my mom got strategic. Theo's overnight shifts at the hospital meant bedtime was her domain. The first time she locked me out of my room and made me sleep on the enclosed porch, she stood there, watching. "Fresh air builds character," she said, arms folded while I shivered. "You're too soft." Lila had flannel sheets and a glowing space heater. Milo got a humidifier and plush blankets. I got character building and a snowstorm. My winter coat always seemed to be at the dry cleaners. I walked to school in a paper-thin windbreaker. She'd station herself by the porch door, arms crossed, making sure I didn't sneak back in. If I knocked, if I cried, she'd launch into it. Told me I was weak, told me she was trying to help, told me how ungrateful I was. The guilt worked. I stopped asking. By high school, the school nurse told me I had permanent circulation damage and mild frostbite in 3 toes. I knew better than to explain. Some nights I huddled in the corner until 4 a.m., unable to feel my feet, practicing silence so my teeth wouldn't give me away. I never told Theo outright, but I dropped hints. "It's really cold out there," I said once at breakfast. Mom laughed, her voice like cracking icicles. "Listen to this one. We give her a roof, and she whines about the temperature." Theo ruffled my hair, distracted. He believed every word. The woman who brought him coffee in bed every morning couldn't possibly be locking their kid in a freezer. My little salvations came in the form of rebellion. Mrs. Galvez next door sometimes accidentally left her basement window open when she saw my mom's car leave. I'd sneak over, crouch by her radiator for 10 blissful minutes, then sneak back before anyone noticed. Once Mom caught me. She made me watch while she dialed Mrs. Galvez and accused her of undermining parental authority. "Some people don't understand that comfort breeds weakness," she said, satisfied as she hung up. Mrs. Galvez never left the window open again. Everything shifted senior year. My best friend Maya invited me to her family's cabin. 3 days of heat, insulation, real rest. When I asked permission, Mom's face went glacial. "Interesting priorities," she said, her voice all hush and venom. "Here I thought family meant something to you. It's just a weekend. Your character isn't built yet. Maybe when you're stronger." That night, I lay on the cold floor, watching the firelight in Maya's texts. And something else settled in. Something colder than concrete. Clarity. 8 years of frostbite, and what had I learned? Only that some people grow stronger when you suffer. I was done enduring. It was time to plan. After college, I became a social worker, specialized in elder care, earned my credentials, built my network. Mom thought I was noble. Really, I was studying the system. 4 years later, her hip gave out. She was 65. Surgery went fine, but she needed post-op rehab. Lucky for her, she had a daughter who knew every facility in the state. I sat at my laptop, scrolling through options. Each click, deliberate. Frostwood Rehabilitation Center came up. East Wing, available. Perfect. Barbara Chen, the facility director, had mentioned at a conference that the East Wing's heating system hadn't been fully repaired in months. They met state regulations, barely. I called Barbara. "I have a female patient, 65, post-hip surgery. East Wing bed still open?" "It is, but the heating still hasn't improved much. We're within code, but some patients find it chilly. My mother grew up in Minnesota, I said smoothly. She's always complaining places are too warm. This might actually be ideal. The placement paperwork took 2 hours. I checked every box, documented every medical detail. When the ambulance arrived to transport my mother from the hospital, I was there waiting. Clipboard in hand, professional smile in place. I found you the perfect place, I told her, watching her eyes narrow just a touch. Frostwood has an excellent reputation. The ride took 20 minutes. Mom was propped up on the gurney, studying my face. I kept mine neutral, detached, professional. The driver chatted about the forecast. Mom's fingers tapped against her blanket. We pulled up to a wide brick complex. The east wing stretched off to the left, its windows all north-facing, never catching the sun. I'd verified the layout myself. Barbara met us at the entrance, all warm smiles and crisp efficiency. Mrs. Leland, we're so pleased to have you. Your daughter speaks so highly of our facility. My mother's smile could have iced glass. How lovely. I'm sure my daughter chose carefully. The intake went fast. I'd pre-filled most of the forms. We wheeled Mom down hallways that gradually cooled as we neared the east wing. Other residents wore cardigans or had blankets over their laps. Here we are, Barbara said, opening the door to room 142. You're home for the next few weeks. The room was adequate, clean, properly equipped, up to code. The thermostat read 68 degrees, legal minimum for healthcare settings. A large window faced north, filtering in gray light, but no warmth. Mom's roommate, Ellen Ramirez, looked up from her knitting. Welcome. Hope you brought warm pajamas. The heat in this wing's hit or miss. I started unpacking Mom's suitcase, 3 thin nightgowns, 2 light robes. The heavier winter clothing I'd selected was still at her house. I'll bring warmer things tomorrow, I said. Of course you will, she replied, sweet as honey. Barbara showed us the rest of the facility, the dining room, the activity center, the physical therapy wing. All of it housed in the main building, all properly heated. Residents from the east wing had to travel through drafty connecting corridors to reach them. We host bingo every Tuesday and Thursday. I actually run the Thursday game myself. It's a hit. Mom's eyes gleamed with a familiar glint. How delightful. I do love a good game. Back in room 142, I helped her into bed. The sheets were thin, but compliant. The blanket sufficient, but not plush. Everything was within standard, nothing beyond. The nurses will check on you every 2 hours, I said. Physical therapy starts tomorrow at 10. I've already coordinated with your insurance. You've thought of everything, Mom murmured, just like always. Ellen had gone to the restroom. For a moment, we were alone. Her expression changed, mask slipping for a breath. Clever, she whispered. Very clever. I kept my face smooth. I don't know what you mean. The facility has excellent outcomes for hip rehabilitation. The east wing, she said quietly. The broken heating, the cold windows. You think I don't see it? I'm ensuring you get the proper level of care within policy coverage, I said evenly. Frostwood is fully accredited. Her laugh was low, almost impressed. 2 years later, and you finally learned to play the game. Ellen returned, easing back into her chair with effort. Arthritis, she explained. The cold flares it up. My daughter's a lawyer, keeps saying she'll look into whether they're really following heating regs. Instantly, my mother's tone softened. How awful. Your daughter sounds so devoted. I gathered my purse and clipboard. I'll be back tomorrow with warmer clothes. Call if you need anything. I'll be fine, Mom said. I'm tougher than I look. The drive home took 30 minutes. I'd chosen Frostwood partly for its location, close enough to visit, far enough to discourage drop-ins. My phone buzzed, a text from Theo. How did Mom's placement go? I called him back. She's at Frostwood. They have a great physical therapy program. Never heard of it. Is it nice? It's appropriate. Fully licensed, good safety record. She'll get the care she needs. Theo yawned, just off a 12-hour shift. You're the expert. I trust your judgment. When can I visit? Visiting hours are 2 to 8. She'll need a few days to settle in first. We hung up. I made myself dinner.
Reviewing my mother's care plan over dinner, I made sure everything was documented, everything justified, everything within legal boundaries. The next morning, I arrived at Frostwood with a small bag, 2 fleece robes from a discount outlet. Thick enough to retain heat, but rough to the touch. The kind of garment that warms the body while reminding it of discomfort. Mom was already in the dining hall, holding court at a table of 3 other residents. Her breakfast tray was empty. She'd eaten everything. The dining room was warm. No doubt she'd lingered. "Darling," she called out, waving a hand, "come meet my new friends." I smiled, waved back, but didn't cross the room. "Just dropping off your things. I've got work." "She's a social worker," Mom announced proudly to her table mates. "Specializes in elder care. I'm so fortunate to have such a knowledgeable daughter." The activities board noted bingo at 2, Barbara's Thursday session. I filed it away mentally. Back in room 142, Ellen was struggling with the buttons on her sweater. "Your mother's quite the social butterfly," she said, "already making friends." I hung the robes in the narrow closet. The room felt colder than the day before. The thermostat still read 68. The window seal was intact but aged. A soft draft whispered through the seams. "These might help with the temperature," I said, gesturing to the robes. "You're very thoughtful," Ellen replied. "My daughter keeps saying she'll bring me warmer things too, but she's busy with her legal work. You know how it is." I did. I also knew that legal threats from family rarely led to action. Too much time, too much effort. As long as a facility met baseline standards, formal complaints died quietly. Mom returned from breakfast 20 minutes later, maneuvering carefully with her walker. Physical therapy was working. She'd be mobile soon. Mobile enough to explore, to build alliances. "The robes are lovely," she said, rubbing the rough fabric between her fingers. "So practical." "I'll bring more clothes on Thursday," I offered. "Thursday?" Her gaze sharpened. "But that's bingo day. Barbara mentioned you sometimes drop in when you're visiting other clients." I had never attended bingo at Frostwood. "My schedule's packed." "Of course. You work so hard. Barbara was asking about you, actually, wondering if you'd placed other clients here. I told her you always do your research." The opening move. Subtle. Plant seeds of doubt. Make connections. Begin the narrative. "I should go," I said. "Call if you need anything." "Oh, I'll manage," she replied, tone bright. "I always do." The next 2 days passed quietly. I monitored her chart remotely. The physical therapy team noted steady progress. Nursing reports mentioned she requested extra blankets. Denied. Her bedding met standards. Thursday came gray and bitter. I had 3 home visits scheduled, but found myself circling Frostwood at 1:45. The lot was fuller than usual. Bingo day brought families. I sat in my car, watching. Residents ambled toward the activity room. Mom emerged from the east wing doorway, steady with her walker. She wore both fleece robes layered over her nightgown. The wind caught the hem, made her clutch the walker tighter. Halfway across the courtyard, she paused to speak to a resident. Then another. By the time she reached the main building, she'd stopped 6 times. Networking. Building her web. My phone rang. Dylan Choi's name lit up the screen. We'd gone through the same social work program. He'd focused on adult protective services. "Hey, stranger. Long time. Listen, this is a bit awkward. I got an interesting call today. Anonymous tip. A social worker may be showing signs of caregiver burnout, making questionable placement decisions." My grip on the phone tightened. "Anonymous?" "Yeah, probably nothing, but the caller was detailed, very concerned. Mentioned a recent placement at Frostwood. Your name came up." Through the windshield, I watched my mother disappear into the building. "I see. Look, I know you. You're one of the most ethical people I've worked with, but I have to follow up. Grab coffee tomorrow? Go over the documentation?" "Of course. I have nothing to hide." Figured. But even the false ones get logged. We set a meeting for 10 a.m. I ended the call and sat in the cooling car, watching my breath fog the windshield. Inside, Barbara would be calling bingo. Mother would be playing something else entirely. I drove to my next appointment, mentally cataloging. Every form filled, every placement justified, every decision defensible. That night, I pulled up her file again. Every requirement met, every temperature reading documented. The East Wing's heating? Within legal bounds. Nothing actionable. My phone buzzed. A message from Theo. "Visiting modding tomorrow after my shift. She says it's pretty cold there." I replied carefully. "Older buildings sometimes have temperature fluctuations. She has adequate bedding and clothing." Maybe I should bring her that thick comforter from her room. "The facility has restrictions on outside bedding. Fire code. I'll handle it." Theo sent back a thumbs up emoji. He trusted me. They all did. The capable daughter, the professional. I brewed chamomile tea, sat at the kitchen table, warm air from the vent fluttering the papers in front of me. Outside, November pressed against the glass. Inside, I was planning. Mother had fired the first shot. Anonymous call to APS. Now I needed counters. Documentation showing other residents were comfortable. Staff testimony about her refusing sweaters. Records of exaggerated complaints. The game had begun. 25 years late, but finally on even footing. She had taught me well. How to navigate systems. How to leave no fingerprints. How to turn care into camouflage. My damaged toes throbbed in the warmth. Phantom frostbite flaring in memory. I rubbed them gently, recalling nights I couldn't feel them at all. Tomorrow, I'd meet Dylan for coffee, show him perfect paperwork, express concern for Mom's adjustment, plant seeds about her history of manipulation. But tonight, I sat in a warm apartment and smiled. Mother lay in her regulation bed, the chill creeping through old windows, finally learning what it meant to be at the mercy of someone else's comfort. The student had become the teacher. Class was in session. Friday morning came, the windshield frosted over. I scraped it clean, methodical. The coffee shop on Maple Street was neutral ground, far from Frostwood, far from my office. Dylan was already there, laptop open, professional smile waiting. We'd taken the same ethics courses, believed in the same values. Now, he slid a folder across the table. "Thanks for coming," he began. "Like I said, this is probably nothing, but I need to log the follow-up." Inside the folder, standard APS intake forms. The complaint was thorough. Someone had done their research. "They said you placed your mother at Frostwood specifically because of the East Wing heating issues. They're concerned about potential elder abuse through environmental neglect." I pulled out my file. Intake forms, medical assessments, facility comparisons. Frostwood was the only facility with an available bed that met her insurance and had the necessary equipment for her recovery. Dylan skimmed. "You noted the East Wing's temperature issues here. Full disclosure, the facility maintains the legal minimum temperature. She has sufficient bedding and clothing. The placement is appropriate." Were there warmer options? I handed over the comparison chart. 3 other facilities. One had a bedbug outbreak. One had citations for medication errors. The third didn't take her insurance. All documented. "Has she not filed formal complaints with Frostwood?" Dylan asked. "Not that I'm aware of. Change is hard. She's still adjusting." "Has she made other reports about other concerns?" "I can't discuss that," Dylan said automatically. Then he sighed. "Honestly, this sounds like family conflict, not abuse. But I have to follow up. Interview staff, visit the facility, check conditions." "Of course." Barbara Chan is very responsive. We finished our coffee. Dylan promised to keep me in the loop. I left, knowing Mother's next play had already begun. And sure enough, when I checked my email,
Barbara had emailed, "Your mother mentioned you might have other clients needing placement. I wanted to discuss our current availability and perhaps some concerns she's raised about the heating situation." I called her immediately. "I appreciate you reaching out. What specific concerns did my mother mention?" "She's been documenting temperature readings, taking photos of condensation on the windows. She showed them to a few other residents during bingo yesterday. I just wanted to assure you, we're addressing the heating repairs as quickly as possible." I have complete confidence in Frostwood. My mother can be particular about her comfort. Has she been using the fleece robes I brought? The staff says she often removes them, says they're too heavy for her shoulders. I made a note. I'll speak with her about cooperating with comfort measures. After hanging up, I drove to Frostwood. Mom wasn't in her room. Ellen was there, swaddled in 2 sweaters and a blanket. "She's in the activity room," Ellen said, "having tea with a few ladies from the West Wing. They've got better heating over there." I found her exactly as I expected, holding court with 4 residents, Walker placed just so beside her chair. She'd styled her hair, touched up her lipstick, playing the part of the gracious victim. "Darling," she called, voice lilting, "what a lovely surprise. Ladies, this is my daughter, the social worker I was telling you about." The women smiled politely, but I caught it in their eyes. Evaluation, curiosity. Mom had been planting seeds. "Could we speak privately?" I asked. "Of course." She made a performance of rising with her walker, one of the women steadying her. "I'll be right back, dears." We found a quiet hallway corner.
Her mask dropped instantly. Dylan Choi, such a nice young man, so concerned about elder welfare. Your anonymous report won't go anywhere, I said, equally soft. Everything's documented, every decision justified. Oh, I know. She smiled serene. But it starts a paper trail, doesn't it? And Paul's visiting tomorrow. I thought I'd show him my frost photos. Maybe mention how you insisted on this particular facility, despite other options. Paul trusts my professional judgment, for now. She adjusted the thin robe. But doubt, she said, is like cold air. It finds the cracks and seeps in. A nurse approached. Mrs. Leland, time for physical therapy. Mom brightened immediately. Thank you, dear. My hip feels so stiff in this cold, but I'm doing my best. The nurse offered a sympathetic smile. I know the East Wing gets chilly. Maybe your daughter could bring warmer clothes. She's brought what she thinks is appropriate. I don't want to be a bother. I watched her shuffle away, playing the frail patient. The nurse walked beside her, solicitous. That afternoon, I visited 3 other clients across different facilities, all of them warm, comfortable, properly placed. I documented everything, a clear pattern of responsible practice. Saturday was Paul's visit. I arrived early, carrying a small, safety-certified space heater. This should help with any drafts, I told the head nurse. How thoughtful. Though you know we'll have to inspect it, safety protocols. Might take a day or two. Expected. The heater would wait in the nursing station while my mother compiled more evidence. Paul showed up at 2 o'clock with flowers and her favorite chocolates. I met him in the lobby. How's she doing? He asked. Recovery's on track. We walked to the East Wing. He noticed the temperature drop almost instantly. It is cold over here, he commented. Older building. Repairs are in progress. Mom was ready. Seated by the window, condensation decorating the glass. The room felt colder than usual. I suspected she'd cracked the window earlier. Paul, she breathed, reaching for him, hands trembling. So wonderful to see you. He hugged her, then pulled back. You're freezing, Mom. It's not so bad, she said bravely. Your sister picked this place, said it's the best for my recovery. Paul looked at me. I saw the first crack. The therapy program here is excellent. She's progressing steadily. But couldn't she recover somewhere warmer? Mom touched his hand. I don't want to complain. Your sister works so hard. She knows best. Perfect martyrdom. Paul frowned. I'll look into transfers. There must be other options. Insurance is very specific about coverage, and moving her could risk disrupting the recovery process. Mom squeezed his hand. You're sweet to worry, but I survived worse when you were kids. Remember those winters when the heat would go out? I always made sure you were warm. A lie, lacquered in nostalgia. Paul softened. You always took care of us. I excused myself. From the hallway, I heard her continue her stories. Tales of sacrifice, of maternal devotion. Fiction, but Paul had no reason to question her. When I returned, he was taking photos of the frosted windows. For documentation, he muttered, not meeting my eyes. Sunday, I built my counter-narrative, compiled temperature logs from similar facilities, found medical literature on how some elderly patients prefer cooler environments, built a clean, professional defense. Monday morning, the escalation came. The call came at 7 a.m., a mild hypothermic episode overnight. Her temperature had dropped to 96, not dangerous, but concerning. She was under observation in the medical wing. I arrived to find Paul already there, still in scrubs. This is unacceptable, he said. Her temperature never reached critical levels, I replied calmly. Slight dips are common in elderly patients. Dr. Cassandra Winter stepped in. Her vitals are stable, but I am concerned. She's mentioned being cold since admission. We've provided adequate bedding and clothing. She often refuses to wear them, I interjected. I don't want to be a difficult, Mom whispered from the bed. The robes are just too heavy with my arthritis. Dr. Winters made a note. I'll be recommending environmental adjustments, warmer placement if possible. Paul looked at me. We're moving her today. That's not how the system works. Then we'll make it work, he snapped. I'll pay privately if insurance won't cover it. Mom's eyes sparkled, triumphant, then fluttered shut in theatrical exhaustion. I spent the rest of the morning calling around. Sunnyside, full. Warmhaven, norovirus outbreak. Gardenview, under Medicare fraud investigation. Each rejection real, each one legitimate. The only available facility is Northern Breeze, I told Paul that afternoon. They have a great PT program. But their heating is under repair. Different issue, but similar outcome. Paul's expression darkened. So every warm place is suddenly unavailable? I'm telling you the reality of placement. Beds are limited. Good facilities have wait lists. Then we'll wait. She needs continuous PT. Interrupting care could risk permanent damage. Checkmate. He couldn't refute the medical facts. Mom was returned to room 142 that evening. Extra blankets and a promise that the heater would be approved soon. She played the grateful patient, thanking everyone sweetly. Tuesday, Barbara stopped by during my visit. Mrs. Leland, I wanted to personally assure you we're fast-tracking the heating repairs. Your comfort is our priority. You're very kind. I do hope I haven't caused too much trouble. My daughter says I'm being difficult. I said no such thing. Barbara's smile remained polite, but a little cooler now. We take all concerns seriously. I understand Mr. Choi from APS will be visiting tomorrow. APS? Oh dear, I hope no one's in trouble. Just routine follow-up, I said evenly. Nothing to worry about. Barbara left. We sat in silence for a while. The board's set, Mom said at last. Pieces in motion. You know, I've been thinking about those cold nights, when you were little, huddled on that porch, too proud to knock. Too well trained, I corrected. Perhaps, but proud all the same. You could have told Paul, could have shown him the frostbite. I was protecting him from the truth about you. Mom nodded slowly. And now, what are you protecting? Your career? Your reputation? She pulled the thin blanket tighter. Or are you protecting the story?
The story you've told yourself, that you're different from me. I stood up. I'm nothing like you. My mother's smile was razor-edged. You found someone vulnerable, placed them in discomfort, used the system to justify it, maintained deniability. She tilted her head. Tell me, darling, what's the difference? You had a choice. You chose cruelty. And what are you choosing now? I left without answering. That night I couldn't sleep. Her words circled like carrion birds. I made tea, reviewed every page of my documentation again. Everything legal, everything justified, everything within the system's parameters, just like her parenting had been. Never overt abuse, always plausible deniability, weaponizing the rules, engineering suffering while staying just inside the lines. Wednesday morning, Dylan arrived at Frostwood. A state inspector walked beside him. I met them in the lobby, professional smiles set in place. Thanks for facilitating this, Dylan said. We'll need to inspect the East Wing, speak with residents and staff. Of course. Barbara Chan is expecting you. I shadowed them through the inspection. Thermostat, 68 degrees. Dylan brought his own thermometer. It matched. They interviewed Ellen first. It's chilly, Ellen admitted, but manageable with layers. Similar answers followed. Cool, but legal. Uncomfortable, not dangerous. Then they reached my mother. She was ready. Thin nightgown, no robe, perched beside the window, pale light framing her like a portrait. A book rested casually in her lap. Mrs. Leland, she greeted her, I understand you've had some concerns about the temperature. Oh, I don't want to complain, she said, her voice a sigh. My daughter worked so hard to find the right place. I'm sure she did her best. Implied criticism, gentle, masterful. Dylan jotted notes. Are you cold now? I've been colder. truth spun as deflection. "I'm quite resilient," she added. "Had to be, raising children, making sacrifices." "Have you reported the issue to the staff?" "I've mentioned it," she replied, "but I don't want to be a burden. The nurses have so many people to look after." Dylan checked the closet. 2 robes. "You have warm clothing available?" "Yes, my daughter brought those." She touched the robe's sleeve delicately. "They're just a little heavy for my arthritis, but I'm grateful, of course." The inspection moved on. I watched her work. Not a single direct lie, just carefully framed truths, each one sharpening the illusion of neglect. When Dylan finished, he pulled me aside. "The facility meets legal standards," he said, "but I'm concerned about the placement's fit for your mother's needs. What would you recommend? Document everything, and consider a transfer when a warmer bed becomes available." He hesitated. "And maybe evaluate your decision-making process. Caregiver burnout is real. It can distort judgment quietly." His words hit harder than expected. They were exactly what she wanted him to say. Thursday arrived with bitter wind. The heating repair crew finally showed up, but Barbara warned repairs could take at least a week. "We're offering temporary transfers to the West Wing," she told me, "for any residents who request it." My mother declined, didn't she? She did. Of course she did. The West Wing would ruin her narrative. I found her in the activity room, surrounded by her circle of loyal listeners. She was teaching them to knit, her arthritis mysteriously forgotten. "Muscle memory," she explained, hands moving deftly. "Even when the joints ache, they remember, like riding a bike or raising children." She caught my eye across the room, smiling. Several women murmured their admiration. Some glanced my way, polite but critical. After bingo, she caught me in the hallway. "Paul's been researching facilities," she said lightly. "He found one, Meadowbrook Senior Living. Says they have excellent heating, an opening next week." "I know Meadowbrook, yes, the heating's great. Also a history of over-medicating residents, very little social programming, and their food is generously described as institutional. I'll review it." "He's already started the paperwork," she said. "He says he doesn't trust your judgment anymore." Her tone was not triumphant, just factual. "My poor boy, he feels guilty, you know, for not seeing it sooner. Not seeing your manipulation or your cruelty. Not seeing your pain." She studied me, eyes sharp as ever. "All those nights on the porch, he thinks he failed you. And now," she tilted her head, "now he thinks you're failing me. You planted that guilt. I simply revealed what was already inside him." She smiled faintly. "He couldn't save you, so now he'll save me." Friday came. I knew what was waiting. Paul arrived.
He showed up at my office unannounced, Meadowbrook's glossy brochure in hand. "We need to talk," Paul said, shutting the door behind him. I motioned to a chair. "About Mother? About you." He sat, elbows on his knees, the brochure bent slightly in his grip. "Dylan Choi called me, professionally. He couldn't share much, but he suggested I might want to be more involved in Mom's care." "I see. Do you?" Paul's voice cracked. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you deliberately placed our mother in the coldest facility you could find. Frostwood meets all, the East Wing, the broken heating, north-facing windows. Come on, you're too good at your job for this to be coincidence." I said nothing. Denial would only sound like guilt. "I get it," he went on. "I do. Mom was hard on you. The porch thing, I should have known, should have stopped it." "You were working, you couldn't have known." "But I should have," he said quietly. He rubbed his face. "And now what? This is payback? You're making her suffer?" "I'm providing appropriate care within system parameters." "Stop," his voice snapped. "Stop hiding behind bureaucracy. This isn't about policy, it's about you and Mom, about whatever happened when I wasn't around to protect you." "You can't protect everyone, Paul."
But I can protect her from this, he stood. I'm moving her to Meadowbrook. Tuesday. I'll pay the difference myself. Meadowbrook has serious concerns. Over-medication, limited activities, It's warm, he cut in. That's all that matters right now. She'll be warm. He left before I could answer. I sat staring at her file. She'd won. She'd turned my brother against me, cast herself as the victim. Just like always. That weekend, I visited Mrs. Galvez. She still lived next door to our childhood home, now in her 80s, but clear-eyed as ever. I was wondering when you'd come, she said, pouring tea with steady hands. My mother called you? Last week, from some rehab place. Said you'd put her there. Recovery center for her hip. She sounded cold. I said nothing. You know, she continued, I always wondered why you spent so much time near my radiator those winters. Your mother said you were sneaking out, being rebellious. But I was sneaking in, for warmth. She told me you refused to sleep in your bed, preferred the porch. Children and their phases, she'd say. Mrs. Galvez sipped her tea. I wanted to call someone, but who? And say what? The child prefers sleeping outside? They'd have laughed me out of the room. She was good at that, I said, making it look like it was my choice. Mrs. Galvez set her cup down gently. And now you make choices for her. I found her a suitable facility. It was cold, yes, but within regulation. She gave a tired smile. Your mother used to say that too, about the porch. Technically, you had shelter. Technically, you weren't in danger. Technically, she wasn't doing anything wrong. The words struck like cold water. It's not the same. No, she said. You found someone vulnerable, put them somewhere cold, used technicalities to justify it. She reached across the table, laid her hand on mine. I understand the impulse, but understanding isn't the same as endorsing. I left her house hollow. The weekend stretched, quiet and aimless. Mother would be moved Tuesday. Paul would save her. The narrative would be sealed. Neglectful daughter, suffering mother, heroic son. Monday came with a small shift. The East Wing's heat is partially repaired, Barbara mentioned during my visit. It's holding at 70 now, not quite the West Wing's 74, but much more comfortable. And my mother? She seems disappointed. I thought she'd be pleased. Of course she was disappointed. Comfort ruined her story. I found her in her room, packing. Paul was helping. The air felt almost pleasant. The heating's fixed, I said. Too little too late, Paul answered, not looking at me. Trust is broken, Mother added, folding her nightgowns with exacting care. Meadowbrook has its own issues, medication risks, limited activities, the food. It's warm, Paul said. Everything else can be managed. I watched them pack, watched the emotional gap between us grow with each item folded. She hadn't just won the argument. She'd won Paul. I'll still visit, I said softly. Will you? You're still my daughter? Of course. Or am I just another case to manage? Tuesday came faster than I expected. When I arrived at Frostwood to assist with the transfer, the van was already parked outside. Paul stood by the door. We've got it handled, he said, tone cool. Through the transport window, Mother watched us. No triumph in her eyes, just calculation. Plotting the next move in a game.
Their loved ones had been over-medicated into submission. The same pattern every time, behavioral issues silenced, dignity dissolved beneath layers of sedation. It would never end. The van pulled away. I stood in the parking lot, watching it shrink down the road until it disappeared completely. Behind me, the East Wing was warm now. Too late for her. Maybe just in time for the next resident. Ellen waved from a window. I raised a hand in return. Then I got in my car. Meadowbrook was 20 miles south. I'd visit Thursday, check the environment, note any irregularities, document concerns. That's what I did. Work within the system, maintain professional distance, make hard choices look like care, just like she taught me. But I didn't wait until Thursday. I drove straight to Meadowbrook after watching the van disappear.
The facility sat on a crowded commercial strip, wedged between a discount tire shop and a payday loan outlet. The parking lot was cratered with potholes. Landscaping amounted to wilted shrubs and crushed cigarette butts. Inside, the heat hit like a wall. The thermostat in the lobby read 82 degrees. Several residents sat slumped in wheelchairs, cheeks flushed from the warmth. The air smelled like boiled vegetables and industrial-strength disinfectant. The receptionist didn't look up from her phone. Visiting hours don't start till 2. I'm here for the admission paperwork. Patricia Leland. My mother's arriving shortly. She flipped through a stack of papers. Oh, right. Your brother already filled everything out. Room 203, second floor. I took the elevator. The hallway was even hotter than the lobby. Paint curled off the walls. A TV blared from the common area where residents stared blankly in rows. Room 203 was small and cramped, 2 narrow beds separated by a stained curtain. Her roommate was already there, barely conscious, drooling slightly. Paul and my mother arrived 20 minutes later. She entered slowly, using her walker, her expression unreadable. But I knew the look. She was cataloging. "It's certainly warm," she said mildly. Paul helped her to the bed. "See, much better than that freezer at Frostwood." A nurse appeared, young, exhausted. "New admit? I'll need to do an intake. Might be a while. I've got 6 ahead of her already." "That's fine," Mom said graciously. "I know you're doing your best with what you've got." The nurse's shoulders eased slightly. "Thanks. It's been a day. It's always a day, honestly." After she left, Paul turned to me. "They seem nice here." I said nothing. Mother was already evaluating the staff, the decor, the temperature. She'd have ammunition within days. "I should go," she said. "So soon?" Her voice carried a soft reproach. "But you just got here." "I have clients," Paul said. Paul walked me to the elevator. "I know you think I'm making a mistake, but at least she's comfortable." "Comfort isn't everything," I said quietly. Says the person who spent childhood nights freezing on a porch. The elevator doors closed before I could respond. That evening, Barbara Chin called. "I wanted to let you know," she said, "the East Wing heating's fully repaired now, and we've had a bed open up in the West Wing if your mother wants to return." "She's been transferred to Meadowbrook. Family decision." "Meadowbrook? But they're under investigation for—" She caught herself. "Well, I'm sure you know what's best." I did. I knew exactly what was coming. Wednesday, I focused on other clients, placed a sweet grandmother at Garden Grove, found a bed for a retired veteran at Sunset Manor. Each placement appropriate, documented, ethical. My reputation held firm despite Dylan's inquiry. Thursday morning, Paul called. "Mom's not doing well. She seems off." "Off how?" "Confused, sleepy. The nurse said it's normal, adjustment period." "What meds is she on?" "I don't know. They handle that." "You should ask to see her chart, dosages, interactions." His tone turned suspicious. "Why? What are you implying?" "Nothing. Just good practice to stay informed." He hung up without a word. Friday, I stopped by Meadowbrook during lunch. Mother was in the common room, slumped in a wheelchair among a sea of sedated residents. Her eyes were distant, unfocused. "Mother?" She turned slowly, blinking hard. "Oh, hello, dear. Is it visiting time? How are you feeling?" "Tired," she said, the word dragging out. "So tired, but warm." She gave a vague smile. "Very warm." While the staff was distracted, I checked her medication chart at the nurse's station. Ativan, Seroquel, Trazodone, all at maximum dosage. The chemical restraint cocktail. That weekend, I dug into Meadowbrook's history. 3 lawsuits in the past 2 years, all from families claiming their...
"One of the difficult patients," they whispered. All settled out of court. I'd compiled the lawsuits, allegations of residents over-medicated into compliance. I texted the summaries to Paul. He didn't respond. Monday, Ellen called from Frostwood. "Your mother's old bed is still available," she said cheerfully. "The heat's lovely now. I do miss having someone to talk to." "She's in a different facility now." Oh, Ellen sounded genuinely disappointed. Well, if she ever wants to come back. Tuesday marked 1 week at Meadowbrook. I stopped by mid-morning. Mother was more alert, sitting up in bed, eyes sharper. The sedation honeymoon was wearing off. Her tolerance was building. "The food here is remarkable," she said casually. "I've never seen green beans that color before, or that texture." "Paul says you're adjusting." "Oh, yes, though I do worry about him. He seems so stressed, so guilty." She smoothed the blanket on her lap. "I told him it wasn't his fault, that he's doing his best." "Very generous of you." "Family is everything," she replied, meeting my eyes, "even when they disappoint us." A crash echoed from the hallway. Her roommate had fallen, again, trying to get to the bathroom alone. No one had responded to her call button. "The third time this week," Mother said coolly. "Poor thing. The staff is just overwhelmed." Wednesday, Paul called again. "She's complaining about the food, the roommate, the nurses. Nothing's ever good enough." I reminded him that Meadowbrook had documented quality issues, which I did try to mention. "You said warmth was all that mattered." His voice sharpened. Don't you dare say I told you so." "I'm saying Frostwood has an opening, west wing, fully heated. We're not moving her again. She needs stability." Thursday brought another call. "She's refusing her meds," Paul said, sounding frayed. "She says they make her fuzzy. The staff says she's being difficult. She has the right to refuse. They said if she keeps doing it, she'll be labeled non-compliant and that it could affect her care. That's illegal. Is it?" He sounded defeated. "I don't know anymore. I just wanted her to be warm." Friday, I visited. Mother sat in the dining hall, pushing unidentifiable meat around her plate. Her tablemate stared into the middle distance. "I've been thinking," she said as I sat down, "about choices, how we justify them." "Have you?" "That night you mentioned, the hypothermia scare, I opened the window myself." She cut a piece of meat, examined it, then set it down. "You knew, of course." "I suspected." "But you didn't say anything. Let Paul believe what he needed to." She smiled faintly. "We're more alike than you think. We're nothing alike." "No, we both operate inside the lines, use documentation to support a narrative, maintain deniability." She pushed her tray away. "The only difference is, I taught you how." Saturday, Dylan called. "Just wanted to let you know, the investigation's closed. No findings of abuse or neglect." "Thank you." "Your documentation was tight." "Appreciate you letting me know." He hesitated. "How's your mom doing?" "Adjusting." "Good, good." He heard Frostwood fix the heating, if she ever needs different placement. Sunday, Paul showed up at my apartment. First time in months. He looked wrecked. "I need help," he said simply. I let him in, made coffee. He sat at the kitchen table, head in his hands. "She's miserable. I'm miserable. That place is awful, but she won't admit I made a mistake, because that would mean you were right." "What do you want me to do?" "Fix it. You're the expert. Find somewhere better." "Frostwood has an opening." "The same place you originally chose." He gave a bitter laugh. "Full circle." "It's a good facility. The heating's fixed. Ellen would love her to come back. And Mom, would she love it?" "She'll be appropriately cared for." He studied my face. "You knew this would happen. You knew Meadowbrook was terrible. But you let me go through it. You wouldn't have believed me otherwise." He exhaled. "God, we're a messed up family." Monday, I filed the transfer paperwork. Frostwood, Meadowbrook, back to Frostwood. The insurance company would ask questions. I'd have answers. Tuesday, Paul and I told her together. Frostwood has addressed the heating issues. I said. "The West Wing is consistently warm. Ellen has asked if she'd return." "You both agree this is best?" "Yes," Paul said firmly. Mother looked between us. "How lovely, my children working together." Her smile was sharp, just like a proper family. Wednesday was moving day. She packed her belongings without complaint. The staff at Meadowbrook barely masked their relief. "One of the more challenging patients," someone whispered.
A nurse muttered, "Always something with that one." Back at Frostwood, Ellen welcomed my mother with real warmth. "I saved your spot by the window," she said. "The afternoon sun is lovely now that the heat's fixed." Mother eased back into her old bed. Warm room, talkative roommate. Full circle indeed. "Thank you, darling," she said, serene, "for everything. Just doing my job." She arranged her few belongings on the nightstand with care. "Will you visit Thursdays during your rounds?" "Professional visits only." "What else would they be?" she asked softly. She nodded to herself. What else, indeed? Paul hugged her goodbye. "I'll come Saturdays. We can do the crossword together." "That would be lovely," she said, patting his cheek. "You're a good son." Outside, in the parking lot, Paul stopped me before getting in his car. "Is this what winning looks like? Because it doesn't feel like anyone won." "This is what appropriate care looks like." He shook his head. Cold comfort. Better than false warmth. He didn't argue, just drove away. I stayed, sitting in my car, watching the West Wing windows. Mother appeared in one, adjusting the curtain. She saw me. Waved. I didn't wave back. Thursday, I visited during my regular rounds. Professional, documented. Mother was thriving. Physical therapy progressing, participating in activities, medications administered at appropriate doses. "She's doing wonderfully," Barbara noted. "Whatever was bothering her before, it's gone. She just needed the right environment." Don't we all? Friday, I placed another client at Northern Breeze. The heat was still unreliable, but Mr. Thompson ran warm and preferred cool air. Perfect fit. Saturday came and went. Paul visited as promised, sent me a photo of the two of them doing the crossword. Both smiling, playing normal. Sunday, I organized my files. Mother's case, closed. All documentation complete. Proper. Neat. Everything tied up.